Bom dia.
Good morning.
Pedimos para que todos possam
We
ir se acomodando aos
ask you all to
poucos.
take your seats,
E desde já também pedimos
and from now
desculpas
on, we also
pela demora,
apologize
mas
for
é
the
sinal
delay,
do sucesso
but
do
that
nosso
is also a
evento.
sign of the success of our event.
Ministério do Turismo,
The Ministry of Tourism,
Secretaria de Estado da Cultura
State
e
Secretary of
Atria
Culture, and
ateliê.
Atria present the
18º
18th
Festival
International
Internacional de
Festival
Folclore de
of
Nova
Folklore
Prata,
of Nova Prata,
Conferência Internacional
International
Fidaf.
Conference FIDAF.
Bom dia!
Good morning.
É com imensa
It is
alegria que
with immense
saudamos a
joy that
todos
we
os
greet
presentes e
all the
aqueles que nos
attendees
acompanham
and
pelas
those that
plataformas
are following through
digitais.
the digital platforms.
Nossa saudação especial às
We extend our
autoridades que
special greetings
prestigiam
to the
esse evento,
authorities that
representando
attend this
Nova
event,
Prata e os
representing Nova
municípios
Prata
e
and
centenários
the
de nossa
cities and
região.
schools of our region.
Também
We
cumprimentamos
also
nossos
would like to
sete
greet our
conferencistas,
7 speakers,
todos renomados em
all
suas áreas de
renowned in
atuação
their fields of
e que
work,
compartilharão
who
conosco
will
seus
share with us
conhecimentos
their
e
knowledge
vivências.
and experiences.
Motivo que hoje
The
nos
reason
une
that
é o
gathers us
convite à
here today
reflexão
is the
sobre uma das
invitation
ferramentas
to
sociais
reflect
mais
upon one of the
transformadoras,
most
a
transformative social
educação.
tools, education.
Mediá-la sempre
Mediating
foi
it
um
has
grande
always been
desafio,
a big challenge,
intensificado pelo período
intensified
da pandemia,
by the pandemic period,
que exigiu dos
which
educadores
demanded
a
from
reformulação
educators
de suas
the
práticas.
reformulation of their
Entre elas,
practices. Among those
encontra-se a abordagem do
is the
folclore,
approach of folklore,
imprescindível para
essential
conhecermos nossa
to
história
get
e
to know our
nossas
history
raízes.
and our roots.
Afinal,
After all,
somente assim
this is
é
the only way that
possível
we can
compreender o
understand
presente
the
e
present
construir o
and
futuro.
build the future.
No entanto,
However,
nosso ensino, por vezes,
our
encontra
education at
obstáculos.
times finds
Um exemplo
barriers. One
são as
example
máscaras
are
que
the masks
cercam
that
a
surround it,
história,
that
as
is,
abordagens
the
que
approaches
associam a
that
identidade de um
associate
grupo
the
a
identity of a group
determinados
to
estereótipos.
specific stereotypes,
Estes, segundo a
which,
pensadora
according to the
nigeriana
Nigerian thinker
Chimamanda Ngozi
Shimamanda
Adichie,
Ngozi
apesar de
Adichie,
não serem
despite not
mentirosos,
being lies,
são
they
incompletos.
are incomplete.
É assim que surgem as
This
histórias
is
únicas
how the
e
unique
perigosas sobre um
stories
povo ou
appear
sobre
and
um lugar.
dangerous stories about a people or about a place.
Por esses motivos, esta
For these
conferência
reasons, this conference
contempla a seguinte
contemplates the
temática:
following theme:
muito além das
moving
máscaras,
beyond masks,
ressignificando o
resignifying
ensino do
the teaching
folclore
of folklore
nas escolas
in
e nas
schools and
comunidades.
communities.
Com ela,
With it,
almeja-se
we
pensar sobre
intend to think
práticas
about
que
practices
envolvam o
that involve
folclore
folklore
em contextos
in educational
educacionais a
contexts
partir de experiências
from
advindas
experiences
de diferentes
coming from different
lugares do
places
mundo,
in the world,
lançando um novo olhar
shedding a new
a esse
look to
trabalho
this
de induzir
work of
importância
remarkable
social.
social importance.
Antes de iniciarmos
Before we
as
begin
explanações dos conferencistas,
with the
desejamos
talks of our
agradecer aos
speakers, we wish to
apoiadores deste
thank the
evento,
sponsors of this
que
event.
operam imóveis e decorações, Floricultura, Jardim do Centro, Universidade de Caxias do Sul e Câmara Cultural de Indústria, Comércio e Serviços de Nova Prata. Também reservamos este
We also
momento
reserve
aos
this moment
pronunciamentos
to hear the
oficiais.
official
Convidamos o
speeches.
prefeito
We
municipal,
call the
Alcione
City
Graciotin,
Mayor
para
Alcione
tomar
Graziotin
uso da
to
palavra.
make use of the word. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Andrea Nedev, President of the 18th International Festival of Folklore, on behalf of whom I greet everybody present and the speakers and all the community of Nova Prata. The speakers, ladies and gentlemen, again, good morning everyone, because the day today is wonderful and this day is revealing many positive situations, productive situations, and productive. I would like to thank, on behalf of the community of Nova Prata, first the organizing committee of the festival in name of the president, André, and your willingness to be here, gracing us with your knowledge and bringing to Nova Prata what really is the most special in terms of folklore. Every time that a people supports their actions in conditions of history, the good history, the lived history that is nothing more than the cultural manifestations supported by folklore, these people, this community, they have certainly the knowledge that in the end everything is going to work out well. And I would like to say that an international conference of Fidaf that deals with the essence of folklore, the history, the essence of everything that exists in the planet in terms of social living. This is wonderful. I have seen through readings and information that conferences like this one that we are attending, ladies and gentlemen, in here in our city, it's not normal to take place. These events of this size that we're going to see next, they happen only in the big cultural capitals in the world. And we thank, and I, as a mayor, President André, I would like to thank you on behalf of the whole community of Nova Prata and the region that this festival has once again held this event of this unique size. So we would like to thank everybody and thank the speakers, their willingness to be here and share a little bit of their knowledge, because the biggest satisfaction of human beings is knowing how to share, and you are sharing your knowledge here. And for this reason, the community of Nova Prata that I am representing here would like to thank you. And I ask you all that join me in a round of applause to thank the festival that has allowed all this to happen and these wonderful people who are here sharing their knowledge with us. Please join me in a round of applause to thank them. Good morning, thank you, and success.
Prosseguiremos com o
We will proceed
pronunciamento dos
with
temas
the speech of
centrais
Mr.
deste
Marcelo
mês da
Barato,
Câmara de
President
Vereadores de
of
Nova
the
Prata.
City Council of Nova Prata. Good morning, everyone. I would like to greet our Honorable Mayor, Alcione. I also would like to greet the President of the festival, André, the President of Fidaf Brasil, Regis, and everybody who are here honoring us in Nova Prata with their visit. Certainly, for the first time, I could participate directly in the festival and follow it every day. And what we saw in Nova Prata, we saw a city that is breathing culture from the beginning of the festival and Wednesday. With that, obviously, and this also the theme that we are mentioning regarding education in reference to folklore, our arts and tradition comes into play. So I believe strongly that since its beginning. Back then, President Andrea, we were remembering this the other day. The Festival of Folklore has always collaborated and working with the free time in schools with presentations. We have been seeing this for years, and this has been making children to the students to open their minds to folklore. We know, guys, that unfortunately some people they end up criticizing without having knowledge about it, and this makes us sad. But we cannot demand that all the people that sometimes some people unfortunately they don't have conditions of getting to know the culture through education. So in not having knowledge, it's obvious that it will only criticism will remain at times. But we can see that today Nova Prata is connected with the four corners of the world due to the festival. So if today our city is with the spotlights on it, this is due to those who make the festival, volunteers, dancers, the direction, you gentlemen who are here representing your countries, giving us this joy for your presence. So I think this is a moment of gratitude only due to the moment that we are living through. And of course, that after all this time away from events due to this pandemic that impacted us, I believe that everything is coming back a little different, and that people will see art in a different way, in a necessary way, just like the maintenance of our culture and tradition. So today, the word that I use here is gratitude to you all who allowed these moments to take place. Thank you and have a good day.
Neste momento,
In this
convidamos
moment,
a
we call the current president of Fidaf America, Regis Bastian,
Sigamos.
to give his speech. Honorable City Mayor Alcione Graziotin, President of the City Council André Nedev, President of the 18th edition of the International Festival of Folklore of Nova Prata, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I would like to greet you all on behalf of Fidaf Brazil and Fidaf America for the second international conference of Fidaf here in Nova Prata. Last year, I and Marcelo Nedev, we were thinking what we could bring of innovation to the festival, because we are a festival that every year seeks to bring something new to Nova Prata. And we decided to start the international conference of FIDAF last year in a smaller scale because we were still during the pandemic. Not that we are free from it completely, but we are in a much better situation. It's a pleasure for me to see this house almost full. And I also would like to thank my colleagues at FIDAFI and also our speakers from UCS for accepting the invitation and being here with us in this morning. Many of us, we don't realize the importance of folklore in schools. Even for us, as part of the organizing committee of the festival, the project school, for example, and this conference, they are the assurance of the future of our festival, because this way we'll be forming new people interested in the segment of folklore, and we'll be ensuring that we will have successors in future editions, because as we know, we are not eternal and we need people to succeed us ahead. So I hope you all enjoy this conference and then bring this content to your students so that they get to know the reality of different countries in the world. I'd like to thank you all and have a good conference, everyone. Education has unquestionable power of transformation, and the same can be said about art. For it to be present in our lives, we need to adjust our look and to see in every floor a stage, in every wall a mural, and in every city poetry. In these days, when Nova Prata vibrates with this magic, we bring this same enchantment to the stage of our conference, congregating education and folklore as the reason of our reflection in this day. Thus, this way, from this moment forward, we will turn our look to the speakers who will contemplate us with their experiences and with dance and music. All their talks will be given in a preset time. In addition, some speakers will show a material written in English which content will be explained orally and then translated by an interpreter. If you have difficulties to use the translation headsets, we ask you to inform our support staff. So, the presentations will be opened this morning by Sabrina Marques Vensky and Vitor Hugo Rodrigues Mansky, representatives of the University of Caxias do Sul, Brazil. Sabrina is a PhD student and has a master's in anthropology and a specialist in arts with emphasis in cultural heritage by the Federal University of Pelotas. In addition to being a ballet dancer and a folk artist, she is a professor at the program of dance teaching degree at UCS, and she teaches the course Dance at CETEC Fundamental. She is a researcher in dance and anthropology, with work developed in the areas of anthropology of dance, anthropology of body, uh, corporate studies of body, cultural immaterial heritage, popular manifestations, and folklore. Vitor Ugumansky is a PhD student and master's in musical education by the University of the State of Santa Catarina, and he has a teaching degree in music by the Federal University of Pelotas. He is faculty member in the programs of music, teaching degree, and pedagogy in the University of Caxias do Sul. A percussionist and folk artist, he also coordinates the program of music, teaching degree, the specialization in practices in musical education, and the School of Music of UCS, in addition to the art of CETEC Fundamental. Both Sabrina and Vitor Hugo were part of Abambaé, the company of Brazilian dances of Pelotas, and they currently participate of the group Zingado from Caxias do Sul, dedicated to bring to the stage the manifestations and popular rhymes of Brazil. Professors, the stage is yours.
Olá, obrigado. Olá, muito bom dia a
Hello, good
todos, boa
morning,
tarde.
everyone.
É assim, primeiro pedindo
This is how,
licença
first,
para nossa
I would like
rainha
to
do mar, Mãe Iemanjá,
ask your
pedindo
permission there
licença e
for the
agradecendo
Queen of the
a todos
Sea,
aqueles que
Iemanjai, and all
vieram
everybody
antes de
who
nós,
came before
a
us,
todos os nossos
to all
ancestrais,
our ancestors.
desculpe o nervosismo,
Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous.
que
That
proporcionaram que hoje
allowed
nós pudéssemos estar
us
aqui.
to be here today.
Hoje, em especial,
Today, especially,
eu peço
I ask
licença
your
para pedir
permission to
licença
ask your permission
ao ancestral
to one
William,
ancestor of mine
que aos 103
that
anos de idade
at 103 years
resolveu
old
fazer a sua
she
viagem ao
decided
mundo
to do
marino,
her trip
que é a minha
yesterday morning,
bisavó,
which is my
Dona
great
Sueli,
grandmother, Sueli,
que muito me inspira, muito me
who
inspirou
inspired me a
durante esse
lot
período
during
que eu
this
pude
period
conviver com ela.
that I
Infelizmente não
could
pude
live
ir a
with her.
Pelotas nesse dia,
Unfortunately, I
mas eu
could
tenho
not go
certeza
to
que ela vai
Pelotas
preferir que eu
to say
estivesse
my
aqui
goodbyes, but I'm
hoje
certainly that she
conversando com
would
vocês e
prefer
compartilhando um pouquinho dessa
that I'm
história
here
que
today
a gente
with you, sharing a little
trilhou
bit of
ao
this
longo da nossa
history.
trajetória. Agradeço o
I would
convite,
like to thank you for the
agradeço os colegas
invitation, and I thank
conferencistas e
the
principalmente
other
a
speakers and
organização que
especially the
organizou
organizing
essa
committee
viagem e
that
aos
made possible
colegas,
for us to be here,
professores e
and the
professoras
colleagues,
de
professors
todos os níveis,
of
guerreiros da
every levels
educação do Brasil.
who are warriors
E
of
é assim que a
education in
gente vem
Brazil. And
falar hoje
this is
pouquinho
how we come to
sobre a nossa
talk here
trajetória
a little
musical
bit
muito
of our
breve,
trajectory in a
sobre
brief
o
way
trabalho
about
que a gente vem
the work that we
desenvolvendo
have been developing
dentro dessa perspectiva
within
das,
this
das
perspective
manifestações
of
populares e
folk
folclore, né? Abrindo só um parênteses para
manifestations
não,
and
não
folklore.
confundir que
You
a
will
gente
see
vai
that sometimes we
tratar do
will
folclore,
talk,
outra vez
we will
só
address
das
that as
culturas
folklore and
populares,
sometimes as popular
enfim,
manifestations and popular culture.
são
So
termos
those are terms
homônimos, né? E
that
que a
are
área vem
synonyms, and the
discutindo
area has
aí
been
a utilização de um
discussing
e de outro,
the
mas
use
não é esse o
of each
foco
term.
da
But this is
nossa
not the focus
conversa
of
hoje,
our
né?
talk
Não é o tema
today.
da
We are
nossa
not
discussão.
go
A nossa
uh,
ideia aqui é justamente conversar
in
pouquinho
depth in this
sobre
discussion. Our
os
idea is to
processos
talk
de
about the processes
desmistificações,
of
valorização e
demystification,
práticas, principalmente
valuation,
na
and
educação
practices,
básica,
especially in basic
embora
or
a gente
fundamental
tenha
education,
outros,
even though we have a background for
outros espaços,
in
né?
other
Mas nesse
spaces as
momento a
well.
gente
But
vem
in
falar
this moment, we will be
especialmente dessa
talking
área
especially
e
about
principalmente
fundamental
sobre o
education and
projeto
especially
que a gente
about the
está
project that we
desenvolvendo
are developing
atualmente lá no CETEC,
currently
que é a Escola
at
de Ensino
CETEC, which is
da
a
UFES.
fundamental school of
E aí
UCS.
eu começo com uma
And then I will
pergunta
start with a
já,
question,
que é quando a gente pensa o
which is when we
folclore e
think
a arte
about
popular na
folklore and
escola,
popular art
do
in
que a
school,
gente lembra?
what
Né?
do we
Quando a
remember?
gente vê
When we
trabalhos
see
de muita galera que
works
está
of
desenvolvendo na
people who are
escola, seja mídia
developing
do
at
folclore,
school,
seja durante
be
o
it in the
ano,
folklore
o que
day
a
or
gente
during the
costuma
year,
ver por aí?
what we used to
A gente
see.
costuma ver
What are we
muitos
used to see?
trabalhos
We
sobre
are used to see
contos, lendas,
studies or works
mitos,
about
lendas, trava-línguas, música,
legends,
dança
myths,
e muitas
rhymes, tongue
vezes
twisters,
somente
music,
nas datas
dance, many
especiais.
times only in
Isso é
special
um ponto que
dates.
para nós é
This is
bastante
something that
importante de
for
trazer à
us is very
discussão,
important to bring
porque
to the
a
discussion
gente
because
costuma
we
lembrar de tudo
we
isso
usually
no dia
remember
do
of all that
índio, no
in
dia do
the day of
folclore,
the
não que não
Indian, the
seja
day of
importante
folklore.
a
And I'm not
gente
saying that it's not
observar esses
important to
dias
have
como
these
pontos
dates
de
as
valorização, né?
points
Como
to
espaços, como
appreciate
períodos de valorização.
this
Mas a
as
gente precisa
spaces and
olhar
periods of
ao
appreciation,
longo
but we
do
need
ano
to
todo
remember
para que
of
isso
that during the
seja
whole year so
recorrente
that this
e
is
para que
recurring and
efetivamente
so
faça
that
com
it
que
effectively
todos esses termos tomem sentido,
can
para que não
give
seja só no dia do
the
folclore,
proper
ou
value
no
to
dia
all
do
these
índio,
terms and not
né?
only
No dia do
in its
saci, que a
dates,
gente anda
the day of
festejando
the
muito mais
Indian,
o
the day of
Halloween do
folklore, and the
saci,
day of
né? Então a gente
Saci, which
precisa
we are
trazer
actually
um pouco
celebrating more
essas
Halloween
lembranças
than
também.
Saci.
E não que
But
tudo isso
we
não
need to
seja
bring this,
importante,
all
ao
these
contrário, a
memories.
gente
And I'm not
tem
saying
que trabalhar
that
com
this is not
contos,
important.
lendas,
Yes, we do
mitologias,
need to work
tradições,
with legends,
tem que
myths,
trabalhar. Mas o
rhymes, tongue twisters,
folclore,
music, and
ele
dance. We
vai
need to,
muito
but
além
folklore
disso,
and popular culture
muito
go
além. E é
way
esse o
beyond all
convite
this.
que a
And
gente
this is the
faz para
invitation that we
vocês
are
aí e conversar um
asking to
pouquinho
you today for
e
us to
refletir
talk a
tudo
little
isso.
bit and reflect
E
about
aí,
all this.
então,
So,
muitas das pessoas
lots of people that maybe unfortunately are not here because they don't like this dialogue with popular culture, they will ask, why do we must work these popular manifestations in school? Why popular culture must be in school? And more than that, why popular culture, Brazilian popular culture, should be in the schools? Why the popular culture of Gaúcha or from this state should be in the school? And what is this popular culture,
certo? Bom,
right?
a gente poderia
So we
passar
could
horas e horas
spend many hours here
elencando motivos
listing
para se
reasons
trabalhar
to
com as manifestações
work with
populares na
popular
escola. Mas eu
manifestations in
lembrei
school,
que a
but I will
aplicação
focus
do
in one.
CETEC, pelo que eu
And
sei,
since we are here,
na maioria entre
by what I know of this
professores,
audience,
não tanto da educação
most
básica,
of
né?
you are teachers
Do
of
âmbito
basic
do
education
ensino, a
in
gente precisa
the
estudar
private and
bastante
public
das políticas públicas, né?
schools.
Porque
We
as
need
políticas
to
públicas
uh,
vão
consider public
assessorar esse
policies
trabalho
because that's what
das
will ensure
manifestações
this work. The
populares, que é o
Brazilian
que
public
ficaria
policies,
por
which is
exemplo,
what
vamos
I know,
assegurar esse
will
trabalho,
ensure
né?
us this work
Então,
in
assim,
school.
esse
So
número lembra
this
coisa, alguma
number
coisa?
here reminds you of anything,
Não precisa
of
responder,
something.
só
You
levantar a
don't need
mão
to
quem
answer.
lembra
Just
desse
raise your
número.
hand if you know this number.
Não? Mas pode
11,645.
ser
No?
o número que
Well,
a gente
maybe the
precisa
number
de ordem constitucional.
10,639 will remind you of something.
Lei
The law
10.639, ninguém lembra?
10,639, you don't
Por que que eu
remember?
trouxe a
Why am I bringing
11.645?
here the
Ela é
11645? Because
uma
this is
reedição
a
da
new
Lei
edition of a
10.639, de
re-edition of the
1939, que essa
10,639
era
that
só a cultura africana e
talked only
agora
about the
a
African culture, and now the
11.645
11645 will address
precisa
or will say that we
trabalhar
need
em todos
to
os
work
níveis do
at all
ensino,
levels
seja na
of
rede
education
ou
in the
privada,
public and private
que torna-se obrigatório a
education
conhecer
networks. It
história,
is mandatory the
cultura
study of history and
afro-brasileira
the
e
Afro-Brazilian
indígena.
and indigenous
E aí no
culture.
parágrafo,
And
no
then
parágrafo 2 que fala que
I
é
will
em todo o
talk about
currículo
paragraph
escolar.
2 that says
Ou
that it's in
seja,
the entire
claro que dentro da
school
arte, das
curriculum.
disciplinas de arte,
Of
né,
course,
das
that in
quatro
the art
linguagens, que aí também é uma outra política
courses
pública,
and of the
que
four
também
languages, this
é
is
uma das
another
linguagens muito
public
representadas
policies
nas
that
nossas
requires the
escolas,
four
como
languages, music,
português,
arts, visual arts.
não só
The
dentro
law
das
of education
linguagens
says that, but also not only in
como
the
brasileiro,
artistic
sim,
languages. About this,
esse
according to this law,
trabalho
this
da
work
cultura
of
popular,
popular
em
culture,
especial da afro-brasileira e
especially
da indígena, está
Afro-Brazilian
em
and
todo o currículo
indigenous,
escolar.
must
Esse
be in the
louco,
entire school
certo?
curriculum,
Ele tem que
right? It
estar
must be
diluído preferencialmente
diluted
no
or spread
trabalho
out in a
interdisciplinar, que tem que ter
interdisciplinary
valor
and integrative
em
work
todas as componentes
in
do
all the
currículo,
components of the curriculum.
certo? Bom, mas aí a gente
But then we
pergunta
ask,
como é que a gente vai fazer
how are we going to do all that?
como é que a gente
How can
vai
we
desenvolver
develop
trabalho
a work
baseado na
based on
cultura popular,
popular
nas
culture,
manifestações populares e no
manifestation,
folclore,
and
que
folklore
seja
that is
integrador em todas
integrative
as componentes do
among
currículo.
all the curriculum
Trabalhe com as
components and that
manifestações
work with
populares
popular
brasileiras,
manifestations of
especialmente
Brazil, especially of
afro-brasileira e
Afro-Brazilian and
indígena,
indigenous
e
origins.
vamos lá no
And
26 a
then in
LDB vai falar também
26, the
sobre
law
a
of education talks
valorização
about the
da
appreciation
das manifestações regionais.
of regional
Então, a
manifestations.
gente também
So
precisa
we also
valorizar
need to
isso
value
que
and
nós
to think
trabalhamos
about
para dentro
what
da
Rio
escola.
Grande do Sul,
E é aí,
the
então,
state, we are
que
bringing
vem quando eu chego
into the
no
schools.
CETEC
So when I
Fundamental,
come to
vem um
CETEC
desafio
Fundamental, there is a
da
challenge
coordenação e da direção da
from
escola, que nos é
offered through the
colocado o
coordination of the school.
desafio
They
de
pose us this
desenvolver
challenge of
projeto
developing a
chamado,
project
que no início
which in the
a
beginning the
coordenadora disseram, eu
principal and the
quero que
coordinator they
seja
said, I
um
want CETEC
musical.
Fundamental to have
Por
a
quê?
musical
Precisa,
because we
no
need,
final do
so
ano,
what do we
ter um
need to in the
musical
end of
para
the year
fazer
to have a musical
todos os adiantamentos.
that
E
will
aí o
integrate
projeto ele vai
everything? And then this is the
desenvolver esse
project that we are
ano,
developing
que eu vou
currently,
convidar a
which I
Sabrina
will
para
invite
falar um
Sabrina
pouco para
to
gente desse projeto agora.
tell you a little bit about. Hi, so one thing that we need to add before I talk about CETEC is that we know that we are in a school, a privileged school. We are not in a public school, we are in a private school inside a university that has a curriculum that was thought out and it's different than the education that we find in public schools. So to start, we were able to convince the teacher there in the beginning of the organization of the curriculum of the school to separate arts, so that there's not only visual arts like is common in schools. So we have the four languages: visual arts, theater, music, and dance separated, because we have the possibility of doing that, because this is a the school is works in full period in both shifts. So we know that where we are talking from, we are very privileged, and that many times in schools we don't find this space. But here we want to bring to you this small seed, or something that you can capture, so that you can put into practice in schools. So here we brought a draft of how this musical is going to work. The school, arts in school, was thought about valuing the Brazilian popular culture and folklore and popular manifestation. So from this idea that we were going to have a musical in the end of the year, that we needed to value the Brazilian popular culture, we prioritized the contents in the four languages courses. So every year we work from Brazilian culture, we develop the mandatory curriculum that we need to have in school. So I'm a teacher in the dance course, and I need to work with factors of movement from Rudolf Lavrum, Hungarian, that says that our movement have weight, has fluence, has time. So how do I work that? I'm using as a theme of my classes the Brazilian popular culture to transmit the content that I need to my students. All that to in November 10, the date of this musical, that we are putting together with the students of the 7th, 8th, and 9th years. So what we decided to do, we divided in manifestations of the five regions. So we have four advancements and we have five regions. So how we're going to do the content of the 6th year or grade, for me in the dance course, we work with a play as a reason to bring dance in the day-to-day, dance in the contents, as I said to you, of the body to the dance. So I started to think how I was going to work with them, the Brazilian popular culture, and how we were going to divide them into regions. And all that is related to the program, the curriculum program. We started to associate culture to the content, the mandatory content that we had to teach. So we divided the four advancements into one region according to the content of each course. So which manifestation and from which region of Brazil we were able to approximate that. And to end, we decided to do, because we have five regions and we didn't want to leave Rio Grande do Sul out. Oh, we already know the culture of Rio Grande do Sul, more or less. We know the culture of Rio Grande do Sul, that is in the mouth of the people, that is in the TV, that is Rio Grande do Sul being shown to the rest of the country. So we thought that it was also important to work with the regional culture. So we're going to work in the 6th grade with a manifestation of the Center-West called Siriri. It's a manifestation that has Portuguese, indigenous, and black origins, and it works from folk plays developed in music and dance. In the 7th grade is our South region, and then I presented to them several images and I asked them, is this the South for you? And they said no. Why is that? Because the South for us and Brazil is the typical pants, a scarf, boots, our gaucho culture, the hegemonic culture. But in Osório, in the coast, we have a manifestation that is called Maçambiques of Osório, which is a congada from the south of Brazil, and we know the congadas from the northeast. So it's a congada that is a black manifestation, Afro-Catholic, that adores Our Lady of Rosário, that works in the church with gaucho drums and black drums. And we thought that it was very important to show a Rio Grande do Sul the state that we don't know to these students, to the teachers of the school, and to the parents and family members. The eighth grade, we work with jongo from the southeast, which is how we opened our talk here. It's a jongo from São Paulo, which is this opening of works. It's a asking permission to the drums, to the Afro-Brazilian drums, and jongo is considered the grandfather of samba. We talk a lot that we say that Brazil is the land of samba, but we don't know about jongo that came before that. We have jongo, which is the grandfather of samba, the round samba, which is the grandmother, and this makes Brazil known as the country of Carnival. And in the ninth grade, to bring the indigenous culture, in addition to Siriri, which is also indigenous culture from the Pantanal region, in the ninth grade, we decided to work with Boi Bumbá from the Amazon, from Parintins, that brings this indigenous issue strongly. And it's interesting because the ninth grade asked to do the script themselves, and they brought a very important issue, which is what we are going through today in the Amazon with the attempt of erasing our indigenous peoples, and they did this reflection and they are working with this. So to the end, we left Maracatu, our carnival revelry of Pernambuco, to do this with our students. So I want to add another thing here, because when we brought this team to the classroom, the first thing that the students said was, "Oh, teacher, why Brazil? In Brazil, there's nothing." And then, what is our role at this moment? Why our students think that in their country there is absolutely nothing nice that we could show? This is some question for us, and it's our role as teachers to show them that it's not like that. Today they are very engaged. They want to dance, some others want to act in the theater, others want to play instruments. So we say, "Oh, what do you want to do?" "Oh, I want to play some instrument, I want to dance." And others don't want to be on the stage, so they will work in the backstage, but they all research, they work, they do a mind map of every manifestation that they get to know. Of course, I talk too much, but in addition to reach the end of this year, we are working with the themes of school days in Saturdays. In the arts area, we selected 3 Saturdays where we decided to do something different. The first was, of course, oh, there will be the June party of the school. Yes, there's going to be one. So we're going to organize Brazilian parties, São João, Saint John, different from. We won't do a quadrilha. But I'm not talking down here on schools that work with quadrilha. I just ask us to reflect that we shouldn't do that only at that moment and forget what's behind all that. All this process, why we reach quadrilha. So we decided to do this experience of the popular culture of São João. So students had all these places that they could visit in the school and discovering what we could know about São João, St. John's party. We did the same thing in August 20th, next to the date of celebration of the International Date of Folklore. We brought some examples to you, and we did 5 bases. There was the music base with maracatu, preparing to the festival, the literature of cordel with teachers of Portuguese and literature, the folk games or plays where toys where they create instruments, the maracatu dance, preparing to the musical, and the gastronomy professor also did something with them, and the engraving with styrofoam, which is cheaper than doing with wood. So the groups went through all these stations and they learned a little bit about the culture in each activity. We had some videos to show to you, but I think we won't have time. But so some things that we need to think about, especially starting from the reflection of these students saying, "Oh, teacher, there's nothing nice in Brazil. Why we're going to work with Brazil and Brazilian culture? Oh, teacher, I don't like CTG, the So we are going to work with the culture of Rio Grande do Sul. But the thing is, we don't have only CTGs in Rio Grande do Sul. When I was still a university student, I participated in a project where we did a mapping of 26 other popular manifestations in Rio Grande do Sul that are not known because we have this hegemony of gaucho culture. So yes, we have many other things to explore in Rio Grande do
Para
Sul.
finalizar, a gente
Okay,
tem
and to conclude,
uma
we
palavra
extend an invitation to you and a provocation to reflect upon
vocês conhecem.
what is
Tem
this Brazil that
outro
we know.
participante.
And the people here from Nova Prata, they have the privilege to have this festival in its 18th edition that shows through Bailado Gaúcho several possibilities. It was very nice when we watched yesterday nights that they didn't bring only the CTG dance. They are showing other Brazils to you, and I extend this invitation for you to reflect about what Brazil we know, so that we can think about what folklore we are bringing to the classroom, way beyond than everything that we are used to repeat every year. So thank you for your attention, and we are available later to answer your questions.
Agradecemos ao professor Vitor e à professora.
We would like to thank Professor Vitor and Professor Sabrina. In this moment, we will hear from Gurham Osanoglu from Turkey. Gurham is vice mayor of Buyukçek. He started in the 70s in the folk dance area, in which he has a master's degree. He was a president of several federations and associations in Turkey, in addition to having been one of the co-founders of Fidaf. He is currently the vice president of the executive committee of Fidaf. Mr. Gurham, welcome to our conference.
Bom dia, dear mayor, dear protocols, and ladies and gentlemen. I come from Turkey, and this is my third trip in Nova Prata, so I am not a ghost. I'm living in Nova Prata in Brazil. This subject is very important, the folklore. Folklore is our life. So I want to say a little bit from my country's folklore, and later I will speak with general folklore educations. In Turkey, 784,000 square kilometers, and on the two continents, Asia and Europe. And in border have got Balkan side, Arabic side, and Soviet Unions. So after the Ottoman Empire, a lot of different cultures meet in Turkey. So we are very lucky for these rich cultures. I was start folklore educations 1970 years, and I bring with dance one side of the folklore, and I continue all educations, and after high school and university, I'm a professor at Istanbul Technical University Folk Dance Academy. So I teach my folklore educations to my students. And also we made together with my friends in federation in Turkey. This federation is Folk Dance Federations, and inside the Youth and Sports Ministry. So all our life in folklore. The folklore is not only dance, not only song, not only music. All our life in folklore, inside folklore. with public architectures is inside the folklore. But our subject for Beyond the Masks is very important. For the continue the true life and for teach the our folklore educations to young generations, the country's life will be better because we don't forget the past. Cultures and art are the most important features that determine the past, present, and future of societies, carry the level of development to the top, and enable the development of individuals. Starting from birth, people live in manners and costumes, dance, folk songs, folk medicine, folk architectures, food cultures, and many other folkloric traditions that have lasted hundreds of years. The fact that all these teachings are not forgotten, transferred from generations to generations, and allows societies to protect their cultures and remain a strong society. Although developing technology can make us forget these features, it can also enable us to reach the above mentioned goal more easily by using the technology positively. I would like to briefly talk about the educations given the various age groups in our countries. Especially in this field, in our country, the types of folklore begin to be taught from preschool educations. To make a classifications, these tutorials and teachings are held in 1. Preschool education centers, 2. Primary schools, 3. The relevant departments of university, 4. Public education centers, 5. The cultural units of municipalities, 6. Private associations or sports clubs, 7. Hometown associations, 8. The trainer course of federations. And naturally, a conscious family atmosphere is the most effective of these. In my country, the trainers who transfer these informations are trained as follows. In informal institutions, by seeing from father to son, from master to apprentice, from old to new, starting from being an assistant and moving on the actual trainer by gaining experience. This information and teachings are transferred with the certificate obtained as a result of the examinations held at the end of the traditional and practical training given at the Space House in the trainer course opened in official institutions, especially in the public education centers. As a result, on the courses opened in the folklore departments of the university, the students receive undergraduate educations and thanks to these diplomas, they work as teachers in schools or as master training in public education center. In addition, this information is transferred with the training and certificate received the relevant education unit in the federations and directorates affiliated in the Ministry and Cultures and Tourism and the Ministry of Youth and Sport. In the light of these informations, if we look at the numerical data in my countries, these are 67,000 schools in Turkey and 730 classrooms, In these classrooms have got 1,110,000 teachers works and 18 million students take educations. Many students receive these informations during the education process. By being deprived of all masks and equipped with this scientist data and the opportunity of technology. This will be an important element for the cultures to live for centuries without degenerations and as a result for world peace. I would like to take opportunity to present my respect to all my audience and to all my friends who contribute to the organization of this conference. Obrigado.
We would like to thank Mr. Gerham from Turkey, and now we will go to the city of Ruse in Bulgaria, from where our next speaker comes from, Mr. Emil Dimitrov, a specialist in the international movement of folklore. Emil is also a co-founder of Fidaf, where today he acts as General Deputy Secretary. He is still official advisor of Cheonan World Dance Festival in Korea. With you, Mr. Emil Dimitrov.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Far beyond the masks, redefining the teaching of folklore in schools and communities. The purpose of this presentation is to introduce you the teaching of Bulgarian folk dances, music and songs in the educational system of Bulgaria, which I dare say is unique for Europe and maybe for the world. The folklore as a form of cultural expression and socio-cultural heritage must be safeguarded by and for the group, whose identity it expresses. In the time of globalization and enormous expansion of popular culture, the living folklore is an important element of the cultural diversity, identity and heritage of different nations and ethnic groups. In Europe, the systematic study, collection and description of traditional folklore patterns of music, singing and dance began in the mid of 19th centuries. These years are characterized by the creation of various national folklore federations, associations and other organizations in order to study, preserve and promote folk traditions and folklore. After the end of the Second World War in 1945, Europe was politically divided into the Western Bloc, the capitalist countries, and Eastern Bloc, the socialist countries. The cultural policy of the states in East European Bloc, led by the former Soviet Union, and especially Bulgaria, aimed to produce a national style based on tradition of folk culture. It was easy to observe development of spontaneous regio socio-cultural initiatives. The idea of folklore on the stage was cultivated by thousands of ensembles or more or less amateur character. Their activity received great financial support directly from the state budget, which gave to the amateur dance creativity enormous opportunities. The state guardianship, of course, had a positive aspects. Especially in Bulgaria, the years from 1944 to 1989 can be defined as a period which is characterized by the rapid progress of individual genres in Bulgarian folk art. Folk art and folk sports become state policy with special support. Folk groups travel with state support all over the world and make Bulgarian folk art world famous. The education in the folklore field was strongly implemented in the educational system in Bulgaria. In 1951 was founded the State Ensemble of Folk Songs and Dances, Philip Kutev, followed by creation of totally 17 state professional ensembles of folk songs and dance. Just to mention, Bulgaria is too small. We are less than 7 million people. And so this is the scale. All those ensembles were founded with the objective to preserve the traditional folk repertoire based on songs, music and dances, and presenting them on high professional performance way on the stage. Was created high schools and academies with folk education. A lot of children and young people were interested and involved to participate in the folk groups. The National High School of Dance Art was founded on February 5, 1951, and is the only educational institution of this scale for professional training in the field of dance art, of Bulgarian folk dance, classical ballet and modern dance, not only for Bulgaria, but also for the entire Balkan region. The main goal of the school is to build highly qualified performance in the professional field of dance arts. The school teaches students in the 3 specialties from 5th to the 12th grade. National Schools of Folk Art Philip Kutev, located in a very small town, Kotel, was founded on October 2nd, 1967, and is the first secondary school for Bulgarian folk songs, folk songs and instrumental music. On September 1st, 1971, the National Secondary Music School for Folk Instruments and Singing, Shirokolaka, was opened with the aim of studying, preserving and popularization Bulgarian musical folklore. In the Academy of Music, Dance and Visual Arts in Plovdiv city began existence in 1964 and like part of the conservatory. In 1972, the branch was transformed into the Independent Music and Pedagogical Institute with special education in folk dance and folk choreography. The Academy in 1995, the name was transformed to Academy of Music and Dance Art because they pay special attention to the choreography of the folk dances. The Academy is the only one on the Balkan Peninsula and for many years in Eastern Europe that offers education of folklore choreography, instruments, singing and conducting of folk chorus. Apart from the Academy, similar education for all folklore specialties is offered at 4 universities, which open special folklore departments for that education. In 1989, with the change of the political system in East Europe, as well in Bulgaria, and following years, all those reflected to the attitude of the government to folklore and traditional culture. The state support for folklore institutions was sharply reduced, which led to closure of many independent folk collectives and organizations. A large part of the specialists in the folklore produced by the system before was a period that they stay without work. And this was very difficult time for them. But slowly, all come back, even with in the bigger scale. In our small Bulgaria now, we have about 20 secondary music and art schools, and in each of them there are classes specially for the folk dance, folk music, and songs. Many folklores and ensembles and groups was restored, and now we have authentic folk groups, we have professional folk groups, amateur folk groups, and especially in the last 15 years, great development become from the folk clubs, place where children, young people, old people, everybody meet to dance folk, to make folk dances just for fun, not to present on the stage. All this huge folklore society needs to be developed and led by qualified specialists and professionals. So the educational system in Bulgaria prepare hundreds of folklore specialists graduating every year and gives new life of the traditional culture. Thank you for your attention.
We would like to thank Mr. Emil. The richness of these presentations will continue with the speak of Catalin Gabriel Oancea. Catalin represents Romania. He was the president of the association The Rue Art Company, and for 25 years, a choreographer, master choreographer of folk ensemble The Rue. He presides Fidaf Europe since 2016. His experience allowed him to work as jury in 15 international competitions. He promotes cultural exchanges and is the facilitator of participation of folk dance groups from the county of Arges for festivals of folklore all over the world. He also organizes and directs the International Festival of Folklore Carpati, certified by Fidaf, and the International Festival of Folk Dance Dorin Oancea. With the word, Mr. Catalin.
Bom dia. Ladies and gentlemen, far beyond the mask, it's a very complicated tema for this conference, but also a very challenging. So I will start saying that in any language of art, culture implies a series of facts, behavior, ideas shared by the human community, from the narrowest type, the family, to the most extensive, the nation that share a certain cultural heritage, language, music, dance, and costumes. The antiquity of popular culture, whatever it is our or another nation, should not be seen as a defect, but a quality. Rather than trying to implement some cultural modernization program or to re-educate, we better observe this old culture carefully and help the valuable elements to be known. The joint in people's life were not implemented yesterday, but for centuries. These joints, which are operating rules of life in its general lines, are hard to move. They adapt only minimally to new times or new leaderships. To hope that they will change because a mechanism or an administrative regime says or demands to prove the ignorance of how the collective mentality works, it's grassroots. You cannot give up tradition and customs like you give up an object that belongs to you. Specialists in psychology of migration have found that the customs specific to the people in which you are born and educated eventually diminish over a few generations, but even when they disappear, the longing, the feeling of emptiness or loss remains. Folklore is in all essence par excellence. It is transmitted from man to man and is less apt to be stored in book, even school textbooks. It is actually created and recreated through the contribution of each generation with the preservation basic data. No one say that folklore cannot be adapted to the times and to the cultural requirements of new generation, but the basics cannot change fundamentally. Folklore, in fact, it's not taught in the passive sense of the term. We want young people to assume their own cultural identity with dignity, lucidity, and pride, to find it natural, balanced, useful. But for this to become possible, we must preserve the essence. Folklore actually has this quality of recording precisely the essence, of codifying detailed information by filtering all these useless elements into simple and easy to transmit structures. The image of a future without the art of folklore, it's impossible, because man, by his very nature, is an artist. Built on the foundation of the past, tomorrow draw its sources from today. The prediction of the future are based on the reality of the present. Therefore, the present must provide the premises for the future. Folklore is defended by faith, tradition, and consciousness of identity. He remains unaltered in the life of the natural people, natural in the place where the ritual symbols mark the great transition in the cycle of life or nature. Traditional culture have a development and promotion strategy in Romania, my country in East Europe, between 70s and 90s. At the national level, traditional folklore was present both in school and in communities. In the centralized education system, musical and choreographic ensemble were established for pupils and students, starting with kindergarten, primary school, high school, and ending with university centers. Also, those who work in any field of activity and wanted to learn and practice folklore in their free time had the possibility, whether we are talking about the village, commune, or city. The establishment of amateur folklore ensemble in all localities in the country had a natural consequence, the appearance of professional ensembles in large urban centers, and national competition with local, regional, and national stage represent a rigorous selection basis. Compared the period mentioned above and that of the last 32 years, we find that the cultural policy in Romania no longer has its main objective the promotion of folklore. The reality of the present show us the difficulties that pupils and students have in understanding adequately and integrated popular culture. There were some cultural successful initiatives by some teachers who introduced folk culture themes or activities, but which unfortunately could not be developed because the school program did not allow implementation at the national level. At the level of communities, however, there are alternatives for those who want to know the exceptional wealth of Romanian folklore. We are talking about here about the first category, art schools and children's palace, institutions that carry out extracurricular activities where you can take courses in musical or choreographic folklore for which monthly or annual fee are charged. A second category, cultural homes, cultural centers of houses for cultural generally offer free of charge the possibility of studying traditional folklore within amateur or professional folklore ensembles which operate alongside this institution or which are financed by other administrative units. Since 2009 and up to now I have initiated and developed a cultural project in partnership with the most prestigious college in my hometown. The theme chosen for this project was education through dance. The main objective being the promotion of dance and traditional folk costumes. The organization, promotion, mediatization of culture accent for the knowledge and appreciations of folklore, as well as the diversification of extracurricular educational activities contributed to the success of this project. Since the first year, the students of the college have shown a special interest in learning and practicing authentic folk dance, many of them becoming active members of our Doru Folk Ensemble, which this year celebrate 65 years of continuous activity in promotion and preservation of traditional folklore. Even if their number increased exponentially until the end of 2019, with the onset of the pandemic and the immediate following period, the interest and motivation of young people to know and practice folklore decreased dramatically. In the current unfavorable economic context, they are no longer encouraged to choose an artistic and pedagogical career in the folklore, both as amateur or professionals. Consequently, even if the entire Romanian society adapts or modernizes to keep up with advanced civilization, traditional folklore must be supported and promoted in school communities, both by the public and private sector. Muito obrigado.
We would like to thank Mr. Catalin. Our conference will now be the stage for the talk of Mr. Vinci Regis from the islands of Guam. Vince was a university professor and educator for 22 years He is the National Director of Folklore of Guam, Masters of the Chamorro Dance, the indigenous dance of Guam, and he is the president of Fidaf Oceania. He also directs the International Festival of Guam. He worked as a member in international competitions of folklore all over the world, including festivals of high prestige in Turkey, Romania, Korea, Bulgaria, in Indonesia, Spain, and in Brazil. In order to share in his reflections and also his art with the word, now Mr. Vince.
Monai palumani airi Panui hamnai guinahani tasi Galaidi O asaina O aniti Ninu mai hamines nunzan minale O asaina O aniti Ninu mai hamines nunzan minale Sign mommy Nayam sinyat Padin guatuk itanomu Sign mommy Hurt me ham zanna fit me ilatin mommy susteni ipaan mommy gihilutanu. Obrigado. Bom dia. My name is Vince Regis. I am from the Pacific island of Guam. I am National Folk Dance Director, but really, at the end of the day, I am an educator, just like you, just trying to make a difference in our classroom. Guam, so I will talk a little bit about Guam, but at the end, I will want to share with you how I use cultural dance or folk dance as a way to reclaim an identity. But in order for you to understand that, I must be able to give you a little bit of history of the island. Guam is an unincorporated territory of the United States. The indigenous people of Guam are called Chamorro. The language also is called Chamorro. Okay, wait. Okay, where is Guam? Guam is about, it's in the Pacific, but it's mostly closer towards the Philippines. So it is about, or Taiwan or Japan. So a 3-hour plane ride to Japan, a 4-hour plane ride to the Philippines, and about a 4.5-hour plane ride to Taiwan. A brief history of the Chamorro people. Chamorros are one of the first or the earliest inhabitants of the Pacific. We have been colonized for 3,000 years. Folk dance recorded is as ritualistic, utilitarian, and celebratory. Earliest islands to be colonized by the Western world, and in 1521, Ferdinand Magellan put us on the map, or on the Western map. In 1641, the introduction of Catholicism. There was a Chamorro-Spanish War, and then in mid-1700s, we had about 150,000 inhabitants, down to only 2,000. Guam's colonial history. From 1668 to 1898, we were colonized by Spain. in 1898 to 1941 by the United States. In 1941 to 1944, World War II, Japan, and in 1944, present to present, the United States. If you Google Chamorro dance, you will see that there is a mix of cultures mixed together. You'll see that it may even be confusing, and it may even be associated to things like Polynesia, Moana, Lilo and Stitch, and many of these other Polynesian islands. But we have our own unique identity, and we have our own unique culture. It was recorded in many of the Spanish doctrines that we did have our own specific dance that belonged to us. But because of colonial rule and because of the atrocities that happened to our island, almost the entire population and almost the entire practice of folklore died. Here you can see a description of an actual Chamorro dance, but you see that the costumes are very much, or the attire is very much like Spanish. In 1664, tourism came to the island. Polynesian groups brought in entertainment, and we started to get introduced to what I call the Hollywood hula fusion. In 1984, there was a pre-colonial dance movement established by a man named Frank Rabon, or the Tautotano Cultural Dance Group. In 2000, there was a resurgence of interest in what we call pre-colonial indigenous dance. I started in 2000, there is me, the one in the orange, as a teacher. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just wanted to teach culture. I knew that there was a concern and there was something that our children needed to learn about their culture. I didn't know what it was. I just knew I needed to start. Okay, that's me. And then in 2000, 2004, I created the pilot program and I offered it as a one-semester elective. The Guam Department of Education school-wide dance winners, we became winners in 2001, 2002, and 2004. I learned from masters of this cultural village called Gefpago Cultural Village, and I became the Guam Humanities Council Traditional Teacher of the Year. I started to travel to smaller islands like Saipan and Australia. This is me. This is us in our humble beginnings. You can see I also teach middle school students. And we just really didn't have any funding or any kind of support. We just wanted to do something, and this is us. In 2006, I started to transition and transform to more stylized and elaborated motions and movements. Here is us. By 2007, I started to now perform Chamorro dance at the Sheraton Laguna Guam Resort as Guam's first full Chamorro dinner show. We then started to travel abroad to Europe. This is us again in 2008. This is when I think I met Emil and Regis. We used to smoke in the back. By a 10-year anniversary, you can see that now we started to put theater and started to use theater as a way to promote culture. Oh. Is there a way I can play the music? Thank you. Okay. Next. Okay. In 2012, there was another shift. The Guam Education Policy Board approves the middle school curriculum in which I wrote. I started to then get invited by my distinguished jury members and fellow colleagues and close friends to the Chonan World Folk Dance Competition. The Federation of International Dance Festivals was when I started as a local chairman, as chairperson of Oceania. We then started to move and to become more of a vibrant voice of Chamorro identity. I started to create things like the Chamorro Fine Arts Pocket Academy at the Southern High School, or as a high school teacher. We started to compete in international dance competitions, and we started to go with the Guam Visitors Bureau and the efforts in promoting Guam. Then I started to create a pilot course at the University of Guam, where I am now a university professor. And now we are now having a Chamorro dance, which is included as in theatrical productions. So we start to incorporate performing arts into more of theatrical productions, I think similar to what they have done. Okay. At Southern High School, what I've started to do was I started to take the stories of folklore and make it modern and relevant to our kids. So in this situation, there was, our kids were texting a lot of violent stuff, right? So they would social media, the fighting. What I took is I took a legend, I turned it and I modernized the legend, and we then made a theatrical production about it. So that we use performing arts to mirror what's happening with our kids. But by forcing to mirror that, they then think about their actions. So we'll go ahead and take a quick peek on this.
Why is Rosa sitting by herself? Ugh. Girl, are you on a diet? What? Are you on a diet? No, why does it look like an evening one? Nah, boo, but you were sulking around like you need a Snickers bar or something. I'm fine. Sure. Okay, so there's this boy I've been talking to. Where you going? Girl, I need more Vine followers. Do I look okay? Girl, you need help. No, I need a boo.
Okay,
You know what they
thank
say
you.
about them fighters, though.
Thank you. Okay, next. Oh, that's me. So what we did then, we also took the exact same folklore and we then made it into a love story. You are a reinterpretation of the same folklore, which is about the legend of the flame tree, which is our Romeo and Juliet story. And then we just modernized it through this music video. We'll go ahead and play a little of it. Thank you. Okay. And then I'm at the University of Guam. We started doing cultural dance over there and more theatrical productions. We started to become a little bit more recognized international. As you can see, these are posters that are around the world. We came here to Brazil 2016. We were able to go to the Olympics. And thanks to Mr. Regis Bastian, who has made us perform in Porto Alegre and with our friends as well here. And then this is another video of just a quick video of what we do and the students that we serve. This song was written by the students.
Driving round, windows down, warm breeze and a soulful sound. I got my mind made up about where I wanna be. Can't nobody take my home from me. There is no place like home. Saying goodbye to how gone. And I'm proud of where I'm from. Yeah, there's no place like home. Palm trees sway both night and day. Paradise, it's the only way. I got my mind made up about where I wanna be. Can't nobody take my home from me. There is no place like home. Saying goodbye to how gone. And I'm proud of where I'm from. Yeah, there's no place like home. And I will never leave you. And I will never forget. No, 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 yeah. I will always take you wherever I go, so that everyone can know. There is no place like home. Saying goodbye to how gone. And I'm proud of where I'm from. Yeah, there's no place like home. There is no place like home. Saying goodbye to how gone. And I'm proud of where I'm from. Yeah, there's no place like home. There is no place like home. Saying goodbye to how gone.
Thank you. The important thing for us as educators to remember, in order for me to keep culture and folklore alive and interested by our students, we must stay current. We must be relevant, and we must be reachable. If it means we need to talk about Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber, then we talk about Ariana Grande and Justin Bieber. If it means we use cell phone technology to make it relevant, then we use it. We do not fight against it. We use it to our advantage. Oh, sorry, back up. But at the end of the day, I like to end you with this beautiful quote from Oprah Winfrey. You have to find what sparks the light in you so that you, in your own way, can illuminate the world. I am just a teacher just like you. I just have the privilege and honor to be in the classroom and mold the lives of our children, and to give them all the tools they need for our culture and our people, and have them move it forward in their own way. Obrigado. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Vince. to conclude the presentations of this morning, we invite the speaker, Gabriel Frontera, who will represent Spain, Mallorca. Gabriel started in folklore in 1975 when he founded a School of Music and Dance of Mallorca. Since then, he organized and participated of several festivals in Spain and around the world. He is one of the co-founders and current vice president of Fidaf Europe. We are pleased to welcome Mr. Gabriel Frontera together with some representatives of his group.
Voy a hablar en español, hablaré muy despacio para que me entiendan y si hay algún problema pues lo vamos a resolver durante la conferencia. Dignísimas autoridades, Regis, André y todos los amigos de Fidaf, ¿se entiende? Okay. I will try to speak English. Okay, I'm very happy to be here with you, and I'm very proud to bring with me some part of my group. Instead of talk a lot, I will try to say you, to explain you how we teach and how we dance in Mallorca. Maybe the folklore in Mallorca is one of the most alive folklore in the world, and that's because we have a very special system of dance. The dance in Mallorca is improvised and matriarchal. That means that the woman always leads the dance and the man must follow her. Always is improvised. When we go to the festival like here, we must prepare something special, some choreographies on the stage. But we are not never choreographed. Always we are doing what the woman wants and the men follow them or her. But it's better to show you how we do, and for this I invite my group to come on stage, and instead of a speak, we will dance. Come on stage. Okay, we start the research of our dances starting in 1975, and we research some steps, and after this we teach about from these steps all our dances. For example, Catalina, we can I will show you, for example, one step on several steps of our dances. Our main dances are bolero and jota. Now, for example, is one bolero with the castanets, with the rhythm, okay? For example, this is one step. Another one. Another one, for example, Britannica. According to this, I put one man. From the first moment at the school, we teach like this. There are teachers in the school, and from the first moment, they they teach this kind of steps. Okay, we can finish. Acabamos. Finish. Okay, these are like this. There are several steps, and now we will prepare one dance, one improvised dance. For example, Vince, choose a woman. No, not to dance you. No. one woman to come here. One. Okay, no dance you. But you can dance a man, for example. Okay. We will put music, for example, começar music. No, bolero, bolero. All the moment, she will lead the dance. We will introduce more people in the dance. I see. The woman have tried to mistake the man. Okay? It's for this that sometimes on the stage we can do some mistakes, but it's not because it's a mistake of the dance. It is because of the woman is a very bad woman normally. And she tries to mistake the man. Okay, começamos. Bolero. Now another woman will go dancing. Barbara. Always Irene will lead the dance. I put another man. Luis. I can separate the couples, parejas. Now each woman leads the man. Rollo. Again, they are going together. Fora. And like this, we prepare something like this. We prepare choreographies. Another dance that we have is the jota. The jota is the same system. We have several steps. We can show, for example, bell, stars, jota. We can put a man, Thomas. Okay, fem punt llis. We'll finish. Okay, in that, like this is also one of the most popular dances in Mallorca. There is one dance that we say jotas robadas, stolen jotas. Is only one man, one woman goes on a dance, the circle, and when a man lies her, he goes dancing with her. And after this, they stole the couple, and they're changing all the time of couples. Now we will dance this dance, but for the start, then I need you collaborate with us. We can dance without music. Sorry for the musician. But only clapping hands, like this. Like this. If you do, foi unes jotes robades. No? Començau qui vulgueu. Tomàs, vos hi afegireu després, eh? Ok? Canvieu quan vulgueu, eh? Haureu de repetir, eh? Haureu de repetir. Repetireu. Repetireu. Toma, lleva't. Finish? What? Okay. But we can show the videos or not? No. Okay, so like this we teach at the school, and nowadays I think that almost all the groups in Mallorca, like dance like this system, and you can see on the squares lot of people, especially young people, dancing this kind of folklore. I hope you have enjoyed, and thank you very much.
A Conferência Internacional
The International Conference, Fidaf, after being the stage of reports and significant reflections, is coming to an end, but actually we wish this to be a new beginning.
temos a certeza de que
We are certain that we will leave this event
das possibilidades
restless, facing the possibilities and the horizons
hilárias experiências
that invite us to assimilate the experiences shared and to resignify them in our contexts. The speech by the speakers prove that it's not only possible but essential to seed folklore in the soils of every continent. So let's be educators that, while transformed, we are also transformation agents searching for our roots, the understanding of the world, and building a more fair, human, and peaceful future, more distant from those single histories and closer to the construction of multiple histories. To our speakers, once again, we wish to thank you. Through you, it was possible to bring a little bit of the world to Nova Prata, and in the same way to take Nova Prata and our Brazil to the whole world. At the end of the event, the participants can can approach our speakers to talk to them or ask questions. We also would like to thank the authorities that attended our conference and the Secretary of Education for mobilizing the teachers network. I also would like to thank the directors of our international groups for their presence and, of course, for enlightening our city during our folklore festival. We also would like to highlight our sponsors that made possible this event.
móveis e decorações, Floricultura Jardim do Centro, Universidade de Caxias do Sul e Câmara Cultural da Indústria, Comércio e Serviços de Nova Prata.
Finally, we would like to thank the educators and everyone who are watching us through the media. I hope that this has been a single moment in your academic training and human training, and your participation was fundamental for the success of this conference. Please, you are all invited to continue to experience the 18th International Festival of Folklore of Nova Prata, that still has several attractions for today and tomorrow. To all, thank you and have an excellent weekend.